Have you ever wondered why we have the habits, the patterns, the routines, how we became who we are? So this is a model for understanding how our mind works, how we developed into it, into the person that we are, and how our mind works. So I call it the truth cycle, but here we go. So imagine you've got various stimuli. So how do we perceive any stimuli? Well, that's through our senses. So when we are babies, we have very few instincts. And the first thing that we start to learn how to do is to take in some of these stimuli and understand, okay, this smell, this touch, this sound, and eventually as sight forms, this sight, this is mom, this is safe, this is dad, this is safe. And from there, our brain and our nervous system starts to expand. So we take in senses, and then what starts to happen is we detect patterns from those senses. So if we see a sense over and over again, then we start to understand that pattern. And even a baby is able to do this because the certain combination of touch plus smell plus sound, for instance, equals mom equals safe, right? And this ability is also shared with other animals as well. So just think about our pets, right? So our dog knows in the morning, almost before we do, when we're getting ready to go to work. He has seen the patterns, detected the senses and seen the patterns so many times that he knows the next step in the sequence is that we're going to leave, and so he pre-pouts for about an hour before we actually leave. So this is a system that basically works for not just human beings, right? However, what sets us as human beings apart is that it doesn't stop there. From the patterns, we start to create, well, let's use this as an example. Let's say you walk home, you come home, you open the door, and you see that the fish bowl has been tipped over. The carpet is wet. There's no fish. The cat is sitting on the sofa, looks kind of happy. So, what happened? Right? Now you're probably thinking, well, clearly the cat ate the fish. What did you just do? You created a story, right? Our brains as human beings are wired to look at different patterns and connect them with a story. Because a story is essentially, you're going to get a meaning out of it, right? Because the moral of the story. And then ultimately, you see a story, or you see a certain meaning enough, we start to create a belief system. And it's something that we consider to be true. I believe it to be true. I've seen enough evidence for it to be true, so we believe it to be true. But what do you actually know from that situation? That the cat ate the fish? Or actually, all you truly know is that the fishbowl is tipped over, the carpet is wet, the fish is missing, and the cat is sitting on the sofa. Even the perception that the cat looks happy is something that we created. But think about how many times we've had misunderstandings, right, with the people that we love in our lives. We see data point A and we see data point B, and we just bridge the gap, bridging the information gap. It's something our minds do automatically because fundamentally the reason that we do all of this is to conserve energy. We were not built for this crazy modern world that we live in. We were built for nature. And out in nature, wouldn't it be useful to build a pattern recognition or a story that, okay, let's imagine that I'm a wildebeest and I have a friend, his name is Bob, he's also a wildebeest. And I have never once in my life, to that point, seen this kind of beige-looking feline that everybody seems to run from. Well, one day, that thing that I eventually learned is called a lion kills and eats my friend, Bob. So you're going to avoid any feline that looks like that going forward. Think about if we as human beings were living in a jungle and we hear a rustle in the leaves. Are we going to think, it's probably nothing, or what if that's a tiger? We're going to automatically, in most cases, lean toward the thing that keeps us safer. It's how we're wired, and there's nothing wrong with that. So when this happens to us now, what ends up happening is that we create stories that are based on situations that we actually experienced. But a lot of the times, this ends up being things that happen in childhood, right? So during our early years, as our brains are trying to put all of this together and create systems, we're trying to conserve energy. Think about when we first learned how to drive. When we first learned how to drive, you're probably gripping the steering wheel. What gear am I in? Looking at all the mirrors, right? Checking your speed. Where am I supposed to go? Am I going too fast, too slow? All those things, right? Now you can drive home from work and you just zone out and you're like, oh, wow, the garage is opening. Oh, I'm home. Did you actually zone out? No, you didn't. You are paying attention to every single thing that's going on along the way. It's just that our nervous system chunks groups of stimuli, detects them in senses, sees the pattern, and we just know, okay, well, in our periphery, we see the green light, and that just means continue to go. And then the moment that it turns yellow, well, depending on who you are, we instinctively hit the gas or the brake, one of the two, right? Depends on who you are. But all of a sudden, when you see the yellow, we start to wake up. We've been paying attention this whole time, but our nervous system is wired to conserve energy. So that helps us for survival. However, you see a story, you create meaning from that story, it eventually becomes something you believe in. But then at a certain point, it stops even being something you believe in. It just becomes the truth. Let's say we're younger and our parents get a divorce, and as a child we're trying to figure out, why did this happen? And oftentimes it's because I'm not enough. And we go to school and we get bullied, right? Does that support I'm not enough or not? Supports, right? And maybe we get dumped. Maybe we ask somebody out to the prom and we get a no. Maybe we don't get into the college that we want. Maybe we lose the job, our dream job. Or maybe we open a business and it's hard to get traction in the beginning. And we wonder our own worth. Somewhere along the way, we created this truth that, for example, I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not resourceful enough, I'm not connected enough, I'm not whatever enough. And the thing is that not only do we not even question it, it becomes the way we just operate. And what ends up happening is, well, different stimuli continue to happen in our life, right? We experience all these things. We see the sense, we see the pattern, but what ends up happening is we just take the shortcut and just go straight to the truth. And we say, does this support the truth that I know or not? If it doesn't support the truth, then we just reject it and move on. Have you ever tried to have a conversation with somebody who has very strong, let's say, political views or musical tastes that don't match up with yours, right? If they're passionate about it, you're passionate about it. It's really hard to see another person's point of view. Is anyone wrong for that? Well, look, biologically speaking, that's kind of how we're wired. And so once we wake up to that, we can start to understand, oh, it's just the lens through which I see the world. So if we're only accepting the things that we see to be true, then we're not giving ourselves an opportunity to see how we could change. However, this is just the first part of it. So the truth dictates the actions that we take in life. You're only going to take actions consistent with the truth that you have about yourself and the world around you. If you see yourself as a good person, you are probably going to not shoplift, for instance, right? Oh, I would never do that, right? Because I am a good person, I'm an honorable person, I would never lie, whatever the case may be. But we take action that is consistent with our truth, and every action leads to what? An outcome, right? And so, for instance, if we say, I always fail at New Year's resolutions, but then this year I'm going to go to the gym every day, I'm going to do this diet, and then by January 5th it's all over, and then we say, I failed again. See, I stink at New Year's resolutions. That's the truth. And this is the lens through which we see the world. Every single data point that comes in is filtered through that reality. And if something doesn't agree with that reality, we will make it not true. So how many times, especially with, say, imposter syndrome, right? You might be an incredible performer in your field, and you're the last person to give yourself credit for it. You might feel like, well, I just made it here by accident. It's a fluke. One day, people are going to find out. And you're so afraid of being found out when the reality is that everybody around you sees you as incredibly capable and talented, and you're the last person to see it, the last person to admit it, because it doesn't fit with the truth that we have about ourselves. And so what happens? Sometimes we might get so close to a goal that we want. Have you ever self-sabotaged? Well, this is why. Because you're so close to an outcome that could be amazing, but it doesn't fit the truth that you have about yourself, you're going to find a way to sabotage that. It's just the way we work. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. We're working with physiology and a nervous system that was not made for this world that we live in. So once you understand this, you recognize, okay, let's say you want to lose weight for New Year's. Everybody starts with new year, new me, all new action. What you want to do is start with a new truth. You must start with understanding, how did I become who I am? And it's not about what's good or bad, what's right or wrong. It's just understanding objectively what happened. And then saying, well, some of this is hurting me. But then there's these other things that I actually like about myself. So it's about leaning into the things that you love and creating new truths for yourself around the things that you feel are areas for improvement. And once you do so, you start to live in this new truth, this new sense of self, this new sense of purpose, and then all of a sudden, the actions that you take start to, in some ways, feel like you're manifesting a new outcome. And is it law of attraction? Yeah, maybe, who knows? But it definitely is. You're looking for things around you that support this new view of who you are and what you're capable of, and the purpose that you have in this world. So, if you want to change, if you want new outcomes in your life, don't start with new actions. You got to start with new truths. And to start with new truths, we have to understand, how do we become who we are? The Insiders Club with Dr. K, great place to start. We have an app that you can learn this and other tools and resources. So, become a member of the Insiders Club today. We'll see you there.